Well, we have a loaded episode today, checking in on some major league call-ups, some performers across the minor leagues. Of course, it's the call-up. You got Aram Layton, Jack McMullen, Roman Anthony, Jacob Misiorowski, Christian Moore, Jac Caglianone. It's like I'm basically engagement farming with the names, but these are the names that MLB is making us talk about right now, which is great. And I want to say before Christian Moore picking up his first hit, right in his own backyard was really damn cool at Yankee Stadium. But we got even more. Like we got a trade to talk about as well, right?
Yeah.
I think there was a trade that happened. We're not going to talk about the big league side of it as much because
You're
that
you're
was
talking you're talking Aaron Savali for Andrew Vaughn, right?
yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
you want to break that one down?
We already did. We did
Yeah.
very, very briefly, and then I mentioned it on the Just Baseball show. We actually led with that before we got into more Devers talk and then Shohei Ohtani on the mound.
Yeah, I did 45 minutes back and forth with Peter on the big league implications of Devers. So we're going to talk James Tibbs, and we're gonna talk a little bit about what his season has looked like, and maybe give Red Sox fans a little bit of positivity there. Brady
Sure.
House called up. That's another exciting one. Trey Yesavage might throw in the big leagues this year. So that's going to be fun to check in on as well. And then I got to talk a little bit about the College World Series, right? I just got back from Omaha. It was somehow hotter there. I'm not even kidding. I'm back in Florida and I was expecting it to be worse. And it's honestly nicer here. But I want to talk about some of the takeaways there. Got to see 2026's most likely 1-1 pick in Rock Chalowski, but we also saw a bunch of first round talent in the
Yeah.
few days that we were out there. So excited to talk a little bit about that.
I love it, man. But we'll start with the big league debuts, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got to start with that Roman Anthony kid. How about the timing too, where just a perfect Roman Anthony swing where he pulls a fastball up and out, hits it out to right center.
Dude. I mean, he what he does is such a joy to watch. And I mean, talk about divine timing. Like once you move Devers, Roman hits his first nuke, and it's entirely coincidental. Don't get it twisted, but I think the tinfoil cap conspiracies that I can actually buy in on are extensions possibly coming for Roman and for Bregman. And that like really fires me up if I'm a Red Sox fan. I understand that it's really tough to let the face of your franchise walk, not walk, but let the face of your franchise go. Reading everything that I've read is kind of confirming all the thoughts that I had subconsciously about that Red Sox clubhouse. It sounds like this might be a net positive for that clubhouse based on how Rafi was
Especially the
handling
young
himself.
guys. Especially the
What?
young guys. Yeah, I was gonna say, especially for like a Roman Anthony or Christian Campbell, where like if the reports are true about him not being Devers not being thrilled about Christian Campbell volunteering to play first
That's
base.
that's the crazy one to me. Hey, you're not doing your job, so I'm going to step up and like offer to help the team. No, no, no. Fuck you. Like don't do
Yeah,
that.
like
Like come on, man. I
it,
understand now. I understand a little bit. So for the young guys, for Campbell to be on an extension, for an extension possibly coming for Roman, like I think that's absolutely huge.
So what do you need to see from Roman? How many more of these up and out fastballs does he need to pull before you feel confident giving him this pre-arb extension? Because I will say the team that's probably been the most aggressive with the pre-arb extensions, and I'm still a believer, you volume shoot those pre-arb extensions, you're gonna win. You're gonna come out on top as long as you take an educated shot at it. Christian Campbell wouldn't have been the kind of guy I would have given a pre-arb extension to, but clearly there's a lot of people out there that would have comfortably done that. So like I don't want to knock that one too hard. Brian Bayo, odds are that essentially he just needs to become a four starter within the next 3-4 years for the years that you bought out to be worth it. There's a good chance that should happen. But again, those are deals that are a little bit more surprising, I think, on the pre-arb side.
Yeah.
Does that make them more or less likely to do it with Roman Anthony? I don't know. It's funny because people might say, well, he's 2 for 21 to start his big league career. The underlying data, he's going to get going here. There's no doubt about it. In zone contact in that span, 92%. He's chasing at a 26% clip. His hard hit rate is 47%. He's hitting the ball hard. It just hasn't really had eyes yet, and it's been on the ground a little bit too much. He said it himself. I don't feel overmatched. I'm not worried. I saw Walker threw that on his story. And again,
Yeah.
I know Walker's fired up about the young guys and how they carry themselves, and I know was having fun with them, via text even before they got up. So again, I think it is good to have this environment that allows these players to play a little bit more free, and I think that's going to happen here. But what do you need to see from Roman Anthony before you can comfortably give him. So he's not going to take a cheap deal here, right? He's not taking, I think, anything less than nine figures, right?
I wouldn't think so. The one that fascinates me is Jackson Chorio. If you kind of finagled the back end of that, like Chorio signed 8 for 82, but he's got club options at 25 million after that for 2 years. So he bought out, or the Brewers bought out 2 years of open market for Chorio at 16.2 and 17.2.
Yeah.
That's probably too cheap for Roman Anthony. And then a club in year 3 of the open market and another club in year 4 of the open market in his age 29 season. I think it's too late for that. What I think makes a lot of sense is Corbin Carroll.
Yeah.
I absolutely think that you could give him that Corbin Carroll deal.
See, Corbin had some big league success, and then Chorio, it felt like it was almost even a little bit
It was
like earlier.
pre-debut. He
Yeah,
didn't play a big league game before that.
I would say smack in the middle of that. I know that's such an easy cop out. You just laid the groundwork, and I just hijacked your point, but
That's
like
fine. But
smack in the
dude,
middle of that.
that's totally fine by me. If I'm John Henry, if I'm Craig Breslow, I'm offering him something smack in the middle of that right now.
Because he can. The thing that's different is like he does for that contract to age well. Yeah, you're maybe going to front him a couple of extra $1 million. Like whatever, you just eliminated 250 off your books,
For a
and you
DH.
yeah, exactly. Like he's 21 for that contract to age well. He really has to hit his stride in a couple years because you're more worried about the years that you bought out and the years of Arb that you already kind of modeled out and assumed if he's playing at this level that we expect him to, this is what the Arb will probably look like. Blah blah blah. He would have to be playing terrible, and then you're overpaying on Arb for that to be an issue. I don't see that happening. It's a no brainer to try it, and I feel like if he has a couple good weeks here, or even just around the All-Star break, settles in, and I think this makes it a lot more likely for them to do that, especially because it also clears up the outfield situation a bit more too, where one of those guys can always be in that DH role, and I think that's an important wrinkle in this thing. So just that home run, I think, was great to see go through. I do want to say one thing with Roman. He's not a guy that needs the air pull to be super, super high. Like
No.
I've talked about that, where I think certain players, like a PCA, needs the air pull to be high. If he's not pulling the ball in the air at a high clip, you're going to see it affect his slash line. Roman Anthony goes backside as well as anybody that is not established in the big leagues yet.
Right.
But I do think that's the one thing that will kind of help him get to his ceiling, is just being able to pull stuff a little bit more that isn't away from him. So, sometimes that swing there can be a little bit of slack there. Sometimes he likes to go inside out. And if he can dominate the inner half of the plate a little bit more consistently, which I think he'll get there, I think that's where we'll see him really explode. But a lot of the hard hit balls that we've seen from him have been these like opposite field shots, right? So like I'm looking right now, 95-mile-per-hour fly ball that went to left field. Another one that was a line out 105 that went to left field. Like a lot of those have been the ones that haven't quite fallen, and some of those will eventually fall, but it can't be backside in the air or pulled ground ball. There's just a little inefficiency there in the path that I'm sure being at the big league level will be the best thing for him to get that 100% right.
You'll find that. I have no doubts about that. So I think we're overdue for a Roman pre-arb extension, to be honest. And it's funny how much that has changed over the last 3 years. I think 3 years ago, I would watch a guy like Roman and I would say, wow, like capitalize on this guy being on the league minimum for the next 3 years. And now I'm like, pay the man. I
Yeah.
love how baseball has trended this way. Are people going to get a little too trigger happy with that? I would assume so. I really don't think you're going to see good young players make it through their 6 years without an extension. It's which is
If you do
cool.
that, unless you're a major market team, and even then, if you let a player get that far along in their progression, you're pretty much just waving the white flag and saying they're going to free agency.
I think Kyle Tucker's the last of his kind. Actually, I think Gunnar Henderson is probably the last of his kind because he priced Baltimore out so quickly.
Yeah.
So he's just going to go through his 6 and then go get paid massively.
Yeah, I mean, you get a Bobby Witt Jr. who couldn't have been any better, and in a market that is not New York or
And they
Boston,
figured out a way to do
and they
this.
made it happen. You look at
Yeah.
Julio Rodriguez in Seattle. Seattle doing anything to not spend money. It feels like, and
Right.
I mean, that's the most convoluted contract I've ever seen. I was actually going over it with Peter in the Airbnb, saying like, "Listen to this thing, man." He was like, "What in the world?" Like, it is really, it makes your head spin. but they figured that out.
Hmm.
So they'll figure something out here. And by the way, he just turned 21
Yeah.
a month ago.
Yeah.
Roman Anthony.
Real quick aside, I'm just thinking we're talking price points for Roman Anthony, and you mentioned opposite field power. I just watched James Wood for a whole weekend.
Exactly.
What does a contract? What does a contract for James Wood look like right now? Like Washington might already be waving the white flag.
They might be priced out.
This guy's amazing, man.
I think it's got to be like, but it's not going to be Bobby Witt level because he's
A left fielder.
yeah, and Bobby Witt's a elite shortstop. But I mean, I think you're looking at a situation where he's already at 3 WAR, by the way, 157 WRC plus. It's funny. I was thinking about it. If you remember back, we put on the updated top 100 list before Skeens got called up. And it was just right around that time. And Wood, they both had prospect eligibility, and I went Wood over Skeens. And I'm like thinking back on that. I'm like, oh, I know I don't like the pitchers as much, but that might age really poorly. Wood might somehow make this thing an interesting conversation. It's just going to be like, what's your flavor, which is fun.
And I think my flavor is best pitcher on the planet.
Yeah,
but like,
of course,
Wood's a superstar.
Of course, exactly. I was basically tipping my cap and saying, "Wow, I whiffed on that one. I should have known that this guy would turn into the best pitcher on the planet." But
right.
I mean, James Wood has a 407 xWOBA as essentially a rookie, right? Like, so it's been really cool to see that side of things too. He's on pace for maybe 40 home runs as a 22-year-old, and we'll see the speed and defense continue to become more a part of his game. So if he's winning an MVP in the next couple of years, then it really is pick your flavor, and that'll be a fun, kind of fun conversation to have. But to that point, to answer your question, it's gonna be more than Corbin Carroll at this point, right? Because you've now seen basically a full season. If you go 79 games last year where he got better and better, but even still then held his own at a 120 WRC plus James Wood, and then this year you have a 157 WRC plus with better underlying metrics, and you just watched him hit. Like, you can talk about how he looks like a superstar really in the making, but already almost is there. It's a larger sample here, right? So what's the number? I think
probably closer to Julio
plus?
Rodriguez.
200
200.
plus? Yeah, because that's like, what was J-Rod's guaranteed?
I thought it was 233.
But it can get up to 4. I would honestly, I
so.
would copy paste that J-Rod deal. Because if you're paying J-Rod $400 million, that means he fixed his swing and he's tapping into his potential. And the Mariners are probably in the playoffs and maybe making a little bit of a run. And I don't like to put that much on one player, but that's the kind of player he is with the rest of the team constructed as such. I think of James Wood 2-3 years from now, if he's hitting all of those incentives, right? Top 5 MVP finishes, things like that. And the Nationals clearly want to continue to add to this team. And they just called a guy up that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
I think you can pretty much copy paste that J-Rod deal, even though he's not a center fielder.
Yeah. So it's 12 for 209.3 and it maxes at 470. I think that's probably where Wood's price point is at right now.
Yep. I agree.
That's crazy. Okay. That was a long aside, but now we get back to the debuts. Jacob Misiorowski debuted last Thursday against the St. Louis Cardinals. And the line on Misiorowski, he went 5 no-hit innings, 4 walks, and 5 punch-outs. He was removed precautionarily. Is that a word? It sounds like a word, and I like it. Word. He was removed precautionarily for an ankle issue, but he is good. Misiorowski is making his next start.
It didn't sound like a word the second time.
He was removed for precautionary reasons. Yeah, but like I wanted to put my own little flavor on it. Regardless, Misiorowski's first 3 pitches in the major leagues were 100, 102, 101, and he made very good hitters in Wynn, in Nootbaar, in Donovan, in all these guys looked like morons all night. It was amazing to watch.
I'm glad you left Wilson Contreras out because he made himself look like a moron in that at bat. I don't. What the heck was he doing?
Wilson,
he stood on home plate the first pitch. I don't like to mess with him. Like, hey, rookie, I'm not scared of you. Like, literally stepped on it, then turned around as the pitch was coming.
103 still hurts if it's from a rookie, right?
Yeah, it won't feel good. And then started just crowding the plate like crazy. He got soul snatched anyways that at bat. But I mean, what we saw here, and this is the most fascinating part, is like that was dominance, right? He had that little ankle twist, which they already said like it was a little bit of swelling. He's fine. He's not missing the next start. But that was pure dominance from Jacob Misiorowski. He was not it's some sort of different pitcher though in terms of the command. He had a 60% strike rate in that game. It wasn't like he was dialed in filling up the zone. What was it? 4 walks? You
Four
said
walks.
that's why he jumped to number 20 though, because this kind of chaotic command is still so much better than last year's version of chaotic command, which was, I mean, sometimes some 4 pitch walks, some pitches that just never had a chance. In this season, and I think we just saw like the big league debut was a microcosm of it. Yeah, he'll flip a bad pitch here and there. There'll be a non-competitive pitch where his levers just get all crazy, but he's able to refine it now. It seems like it's like what we talk about with golf, right? Like
Yeah.
I just want to get good enough at golf to where when I make a bad swing, I know why I made a bad swing and I can recalibrate enough to like hit the ball in the air again and hit it straight. Like I don't know if Misiorowski had that recalibration capability last year, and it seems like he's found it this year. So there's days where he's calibrated the whole time, and that he's on no hitter watch in that
Right.
instance, which is funny because he actually didn't give up a hit in this one. But I think what we're seeing now is even when the command is a little bit scattershot, he can lock in enough and fill up the zone enough now and make pitches when he needs to enough now to get through 5. And he could have got through probably 6. I don't think they would have let him go more than that. So he cut his start short, but like he was at 81 pitches. He could have got through 6 innings with 4 walks and not really, being dialed in command wise. And that's because no one's really going to barrel this guy that often. And there's enough pitches. This isn't a 2-pitch dude. And that's the
No.
other fun part about it is you've got that fastball it's an 80 grade fastball. You've got people are calling it a slider. Is that not a cutter? That's a
It,
cutter to me a lot of the time.
so the cutter is at like 95, 96,
Yes.
and then he's got a curveball, I guess,
Yes.
that was being tagged as a slider at 89, 90. That's not a slider. Like it's got a ton of depth, but he throws pitches that are out of every single window of the norm you can possibly imagine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It really is because the shape and where it's coming from, release height wise and extension wise, is just not normal. And by
And
the
the
way,
velocity, like the velocity on these pitches is
exactly.
not normal. No one should be throwing a curveball at 90 miles an hour, but he's doing that. Like nobody should be throwing a splitter at 92 like Justin Martinez was, but he is.
And how about the fact that it's 7.5 extension? So
Yeah,
how are you going to hit 101 from 7.5 extension? That's got to
this
be perceived velo 108. Like I don't even know.
I think along with Mason Miller because of the carry and he extends pretty well as well. I think along with Mason Miller, Misiorowski probably has the hardest perceived fastball in Major League Baseball
Has
at
to
this
be.
point.
And it's getting carry too. It's a 5.3 release, 5.2 release height, and he's getting 17 vert. Like this really is like a one of one fastball. But that slider slash cutter, whatever you want to call it, I see 8 vert and 0 horizontal. I think cutter, but because of where he releases it from and everything, that sweep plays up too. That pitch is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, and he can backdoor guys with it. Like if the command is like this, he's going to be a really fun middle rotation starter who flashes frontline stuff. But you assume that as the 23-year-old just gets more innings and throws more at the big league level, if the command gets up another grade, he's a frontline guy for a long, long time. And I'm excited to just continue to watch this guy throw. He is must see TV. And talk about the talent of Major League Baseball. You have Roman Anthony up. He's a blast to watch as he settles in. But I love when the pitchers are up because you plan a day around a pitcher. You go
Yeah.
to the ballpark to watch him throw 5-6 innings. Uh, Baseball needs more of those blue chip pitching prospects, and
Yeah.
we've seen what Paul Skeens has done to this game. Mizrowski's not going to do it to that degree, but if
But
you have a bunch of players doing it 30% of the way in terms of being a lightning rod and especially local fans wanting to go watch that guy and things like that, it's just so good for the game. Yuri Perez is back doing that for the Marlins now too. We're in a great spot.
we're in a really good spot, and FanDuel Sports Network Wisconsin is going to see a boom every single time Misiorowski toes the rubber. Like, that's the thing, man. We talk about League Pass watchability. Who puts out the League Pass rankings? Is that Worldwide Wob? Is that what he
Probably that
does?
sounds about right.
I think he puts out like the League Pass game score in terms of watchability.
Mm.
There are a lot of baseball fans, and I know many of you are listening to this program right now that do the exact same thing. They go on the MLB app and they say, which game am I going to watch tonight? And if Mizorowski's on the hill, chances are you've got that game, if not on your primary screen, on a secondary or tertiary screen.
Yep.
And that is what baseball needs. That is what a market like Milwaukee needs. And
Oh,
they've
no
got it
doubt.
in Mizorowski. And I'm thinking, you're right. If the command ticks up, he can be a frontline arm for a long time. Is he not just a Kmart Dylan Cease right now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if you could say it's fully Kmart, right? Like, I don't know what's a little bit nicer than Kmart. Like,
Yeah, I mean, is he an H&M Dylan Cease right now? If Cease is Balenciaga, like
yeah.
maybe.
Well, it depends what cease, right? So, like, but that's kind of the point. Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities there, but the difference is Cease doesn't have this kind of fastball to hide behind, and I think that's what makes this a more interesting wrinkle.
He was throwing 100 last night in
Yeah,
LA. I just want to get that out of the way.
yeah, that is true. So it's close, 70 grade instead of an 80.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, to your point, the and then the assortment of secondaries you could probably say are right there. It's quite similar. It is quite similar, and I think you'll happily ride that roller coaster with
of course.
Misiorowski, and you hope that by the time he's Dylan Cease's age, something has come along a little bit further command wise.
And somebody's going to pay a lot of money to ride that roller coaster this offseason in Dylan Cease.
Oh
And
yeah,
I think Mizorowski's going to make quite a bit of coin over the course of his major league career. Christian Moore is up with the LA Angels. Moore tripled and did the tongue out and shake the head
yeah.
after diving headfirst into third base at Yankee Stadium. That was flat out awesome. Christian Moore does not lack electricity. I
No,
don't want to get that twisted. He is exciting to watch. He makes the Angels much more watchable right now. Does he make the Angels better right now is another question.
yeah, that is. I look that swing was awesome. He can hit the ball hard. He's an athlete, and it's fun to watch him, do his thing. And frankly, they should have. I would have probably had him in AAA for a little bit longer, but given where they're at right now, you know what? The Angels model, screw it. Get him up there. Mike Trout swinging it. Maybe they have some similar swing paths actually, but in terms of that's a guy that I hope Christian Moore is just picking his brain and talking to him about how he maneuvers, not being able to cover the top of the zone as well as he covers the bottom of the zone. Because right now with a Christian Moore, he has a path that's always going to give him blue zone at the top. I talked about that when he was in college, and it was
Yeah.
some of my concern is I thought that blue zone crept a little bit too far down towards the middle. But it's definitely something that you can make subtle adjustments and maneuver and improve on. But right now, it's high fastball slider that's affecting him. So, I mean, you get to go talk to Mike Trout every single day in the cages about what you're going, what you're trying to do and what your deficiencies are. I think that could be, the more I've thought about, more valuable than just teeing off in the PCO. I honestly think if he was in Double A, you see a lot more of the high carry fastballs there and stuff like that, and sharper sliders. Probably would have been more difficult for him. Getting up to AAA was almost easier for a guy like him. So, especially someone that hits the ball in the air as much as he does, and we saw the numbers leap when he got to AAA. So, I figured once they put him in AAA, it was more of just a momentum thing, get him going, and then get him to the show. So I like it from the perspective that it's going to be an opportunity for him to just learn and really see, what is deficient potentially in that swing. 'Cause if he's sitting in AAA, you're not making changes when you're teeing off in the PCL. So that's the thing to monitor, though, is the swing decisions have gotten a lot better, and I think that's really important. So he knows, I think, what he wants to do up there, and he's recognizing a little bit better. But he's going to need to find a way to cover the top of the zone or lay off of it even more consistently. And he's going to need to find a way to hit sliders a little bit better to find some more consistent big league success. But he's 22 years old. And
And to
he's
your
even as a college guy, he's just 22 years old. He's got all the time in the world. I just hope that he doesn't get overwhelmed too much. And
yeah,
mentally, it doesn't seem like he's going to. So it's more just about, pitchers challenging him, and they're going to challenge him.
yeah.
Can he hit those mistakes and just coast enough to continue to develop up there? He's hitting ninth, by the way, too, where you got to go back around to Neto and Trout, even if this team isn't great.
Yeah.
It's a great spot for him to be in.
And to your point, I love who he's surrounded by in that clubhouse. Like, a guy like Nolan Shonowell is not somebody that is, blossomed into a power hitting first baseman. But what Shonowell does very well is he takes pitches and he puts bat on ball right now as a first baseman. Like, Shonowell has a good offensive profile for Christian Moore to take a little bit from.
Yep.
Trout obviously is the gold standard. You talk to Trout as much as you possibly can. But a guy like Neto made a change. I mean, we saw him get embarrassed by Bryce Miller last year. And since he's been embarrassed, he's a top 10 shortstop in Major League Baseball, maybe even better than that. I think you can, filter it down to maybe top 7 shortstop in baseball for Zach Neto. So These guys have gone through trials and tribulations in the major leagues. So
And been rushed there.
and been rushed there. So, not just having a Trout, but having a guy like Shonowell, if you talk to him in the afternoon or evening, and a guy like
Not in the
Neto,
morning, though.
not in the morning, and a guy like Neto, you can talk to him really any hour of the day. Like, that is huge to have at Christian Moore's disposal. And I think he's going to get better at the big league level. And you're going to watch the maturation week by week, and you're going to see a different Christian Moore by the end of the season.
I hope so. And it makes, again, the Angels are more fun team to watch right now. And the lineup is not terrible. When Trout's in there, it's the watch factor goes up significantly. But when you got some of the young guys in there as well, I mean, it makes a big difference.
JJ Piccolo pushed Jac Caglianone to a place where he felt adversity. He felt challenged. He didn't feel challenged in Double A. He wasn't challenged in Triple A. Cags is being challenged in the major leagues right now. And the line on Caglione, as it stands at the moment, through 12 games, he's hitting 213 with a 484 OPS. In 12 games, he has just 2 extra base hits. They're both doubles. He's walked once in 48 plate appearances. He's punched out 10 times in 48 plate appearances. The K rate is fine, to be honest. Like
that's the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, the K rate's totally fine. You would like to see him walk more than a 2% clip at this point, surely. But where are you at right now with his really slow start out of the gates in his first 2 major league weeks?
I would say kind of unsurprised, right? I mean, we're talking about a super aggressive power hitter who's got thrust into the big league level. There's going to be a learning curve here, but I would have been very concerned if he was whiffing at a high rate because he's going to chase. The 2% walk rate is definitely not a problem, but something that needs to improve. That was something that if I told you, hey, Cags is going to have a 2% walk rate through his first 12 games, you probably wouldn't have blinked, right? You would have said, oh, okay. He hopefully improves on that. But the strikeout rate, if that was at 30% with a 2% walk rate, then we've got some problems here, right? Because then it's really hard for you to be productive and just consistently, I would say, get on base and prove that you can actually handle the level. I think he looks like a guy that can handle big league competition. I do believe that. But it goes back to the age-old conversation here with him, which is, can he cut down the chase? And it's different when you're chasing at a 36% clip in Double A, Triple A, because that one mistake, he wasn't missing.
You're going to kill.
He would kill. And also maybe those chases even were I mean, he has some of the best plate coverage in baseball. And I think that he is a unique conversation where, like, his chase rate, you almost do need to repurpose a little bit, because chase for him is not really chase for other guys. Like if he's swinging at a ball that's a ball off the plate away, that's not, I wouldn't put that as a Cags chase. That's a pitch that he could pull out of the yard, but he goes the other way or dead center. It's kind of the same thing when he golfs one a ball below the zone. That's easy money for him, right? Like, so that's where you have to look at instead of just the overall chase rate, kind of the ABs. And yeah, you've still had a little bit of that egregious chase here and there, and you know that that's going to happen. But that's really just the main thing I'm looking at. And at the end of the day, it's not 40+%. I know it might sound like the bar is a little bit low, but this is a guy that had some major yellow flags going in, and I don't think any of those have reared their head at the highest level just yet. And I'm even looking at like a chart of the worst chases. There's some at the top that he definitely, some four-seamers at the top that he's going to need to get better with. And it's been mostly guys that have change-ups that kind of lull him that I think speed him up. It's a Devin Williams chase at the eyes. It's a Clark Schmidt chase at the eyes. It's a Palante chase at the eyes. So those are the swings that I think he needs to probably eliminate. But overall, I don't think it looks that bad. And by the way, it's a 54% hard hit rate in that span. So like when he is hitting the ball, he's torching it, and he's not whiffing at a crazy rate.
He's run into some really tough luck, and I don't have the lowercase x numbers in front of me, but I would assume those look a lot better than what his slash line currently looks like.
I was thinking about that too. And oh my gosh, yes.
Okay, there we go.
Ex-WOBA of 362, WOBA of 215. I mean, and that accounts for not walking as well. So I think that's showing you that he's torching baseballs. And if you look at I don't know if you have like a spray chart in front of you, it's line drives to all fields. Like there's a lot of hard hit baseballs to all fields. It's just caught, caught, caught. Uh, look, there's the one swing that I keep thinking about too is he went Oppo like right at shortstop, 104 off a Max Fried cutter that was up and out. Like it was a ball up and out. So it's going to go down as a chase. But he hit it Oppo on a line at 9 degrees, 104. Like,
Yeah.
those are the swings where it's like, okay, those are going to fall a little bit more. And instead of that going down as an out and upping your chase rate, that's a backside double in the left field gap, in the left
Yeah.
center gap. So I wouldn't say I'm worried. The one thing I would like to see though is he's got to get it in the air a little bit more. I mean, that's who you are. He is a guy that can get away with it. We look at a Juan Soto ground ball rate. There's points where it does creep up, and he could have a 50% ground ball rate because when it is in the air, it's generally going to be a home run.
Yeah.
But for Cags right now, what's been in the air has usually been line drive. So he's got to find a little bit more loft, I think, in that swing. The average launch angle on his hard hit baseball is small sample, but it's 8.5 degrees. So I think that's the thing you'd probably want to find a little bit more of. And then maybe cut that chase rate marginally just so he can draw some more free passes. But I honestly think pitchers are going after him. And that's something that he's probably not used to.
Yeah. So Cags, I'm just looking at the fastball numbers on Savant. He's 4 for 21 against fastballs to this point. He's seeing him 50% of the time. Cags is hitting 190 against four seam fastballs, or against four seamers and sinkers, hitting 190 against fastballs, an expected batting average of 402, and the average launch angle against it is -3 degrees.
Yeah,
So any
that's
fastball he's getting, he's just putting on the ground.
yeah. It's probably getting on him a little bit. And I genuinely think it's because he is probably not used to guys just attacking him with heat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool, man. All right. We've got one more big league call up that we're going to talk about, and then we'll hit a bunch of other stuff, some promotions, and some notable pitching performances. But before that, quick break. Last big league call up we got to talk about is Brady House for the Washington Nationals. House did not spark anything, neither did Davey Martinez, saying it's never the coach's fault. Sometimes it's always on the players. That was good. I loved that quote from Davey Martinez because he said the quiet part out loud, I think. He's right. You can't catch a pop-up in shallow right for Luis Garcia. You can't, pitch for Trevor Williams. You can't hit for whoever. But, man, like, that was tough. They lost their 8th in a row after he made those comments. And then after calling up Brady House, they lost their 9th in a row to the Colorado Rockies, who came back in the 9th inning on Monday night. But House is up. They needed a jolt. House's presence is certainly a jolt. The question is the production going to be a jolt?
Yeah, I'm very curious. I hope so. All of the questions that we've had about Brady House, and I did include him as a just missed in the top 100 just because the production has been so good at AAA, and he just turned 22 years old, by the way, like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But he basically took all of the concerns that we had, which was chase is too high, ground ball rate is too high, paired with some challenges against velocity, and hedged those all a little bit, and then leveraged his strengths more than ever, and that's why he is crushing. Before he got up, was crushing in AAA. That said, all of the underlying metrics still pointed towards those being concerns to a degree. He's just found a way to manage them, and his as he's just compiled more games at the AAA level. And yes, it was a 304, 353, 519 slash line in AAA. That's awesome. It really is. But in zone contact rate of about 75%. My other concern is he's walking at a 7% clip in a league where he clearly was one of the more productive hitters. The EVs jumped though. And I mean, this guy was running a 90th of 109, which is elite, a hard hit rate of 47%. He's crushing baseballs. And that's why when he hits it in the air, it was gone. And it's to all fields. My biggest concern is he still looks a little rushed in the box at points. And I think about what you're going to see at the big league level. Against 93 plus, he had a 714 OPS. You dial that up to 94 plus mile per hour fastballs. And I mean, he saw 167 of them before he got called up. 483 OPS. That ground ball rate goes to 67%. It's not the biggest sample in the world, but it's not a negligible sample there is either. So that's something that you're only going to see more of that at the big league level. And they're going to know that. And hey, you got a guy coming out of the pen throwing 97. He's just going to say good morning, good afternoon, and good night unless you can make an adjustment. So that's the big thing that I'm monitoring here. But the positive is you got a great defender at third base. You've got a plus raw power guy who's getting into his power as well as he ever has. And even if he, I want to say like what I always hoped would be a three true outcome third baseman, because if he's a three true outcome third baseman, he's going to accumulate WAR. He can
Yeah.
pick it. He's going to hit his homers. I'm looking at that chase rate, and it really creeps up against fastballs.
Okay.
Where again, it just seems like a guy who's rushed. Right? Against fastballs, it's a 39% chase rate. Against sliders, it's 20%. So he seems to be recognizing spin all right. It's fastballs that rush him, and I don't know how to feel about that.
I don't have a good answer for you. I'm just trying to think about the three true outcome third baseman because Muncy has more power than him. Chapman is an elite defensive third baseman. He would kind of be in his own stratosphere, I think, or he would be in his own avenue of major league third baseman. Like there really isn't a big league third baseman that looks like him.
I think if you're looking at that like super light, the Kmart Matt Chapman side of things, where he's not going to be an all world defender, but he's going to make a good, he's going to play good defense at third, and he's going to hit the ball really hard. So that could be his way of accumulating WAR.
Chapman turning the sliders down. Okay.
Yeah, like way down though, like
Way down, like 40% of Matt Chapman.
I mean, you'd be thrilled with that. I think that's still like a two WAR player a lot of years, right? So, but and that would be out of the gate, and you hope that he gets better and better, right? Matt Chapman, even at points, looked like 40% of Matt Chapman because of his approach and because of his inability to consistently, I would say, just find the barrel. And for his issues, I think it was more on spin. But he's 22, he's got time, and this is another guy that's like, how much value would there have been where clearly he was going to be productive in AAA, not need to make changes because he's raking, and those underlying yellow flags, or if you look at charts, kind of red, those weren't going to rear their head until he's playing at a level that makes it rear its head. So I think it'll be interesting to see how he adjusts and things like that. But this is still a guy that can hit 25 plus homers at third base and play above average defense if it all works out. And you got to be excited about that. It's just, how long does it take for him to get there? I don't know. Might as well start that process now, because the Nationals, I think you look at next year as a year where they should be starting to circle a wild card and say, this is what we need to do. The rumors have been they want to go get maybe some top flight arms.
Yeah.
So you want Brady House to have 80 games under his belt so that you can look at him in 2026 and say, hey, this is a year where he takes a step forward and can play third base every day for us.
We also heard a lot of that rhetoric about this year. It's like, oh, they're my pick to break out. They're my pick to be a wild card sleeper, and now they look lifeless. To be honest, I just watched 3 games of them over the weekend. Like I've never called a game against a team that is flatlining as much as them. And I've seen teams that are really poor at the AAA level, at the high A level, at the short season level. They just looked lifeless, man. And like Nathaniel Lowe would come to the plate. Thankfully, I had zero confidence that he was going to do any damage. Josh Bell, like zero confidence that he was going to do any damage. And it's just wild. After Wood, there was no fear in that lineup, which is crazy.
Yeah, and you hope that, Dylan Cruz comes back and settles in and things like that. But these are all questions that you need to answer, and that's why I like the idea of getting House up there to start to answer those now. But I'm with you. Like they need these young guys to continue to develop and somebody to at least get close to a Wood track here. Not to get to where Wood is, but if Dylan Cruz comes back and he's 70% of what we hope Dylan Cruz could be, and Brady House is 60% of what,
then they're on line with Abrams, frankly. Like they're totally in line with Abrams. And if you have Wood and 3 different versions of CJ Abrams at 3 spots, that's a good lineup.
And then you have money to go with the pitching. Yeah, it's bets. They can figure it out. Ruiz is playing all right. So they're going to be a fun conversation moving forward, but House needs to be a part of it. And I'm glad he is.
All right, let's spend another 45 minutes on Rafi Devers. James Tibbs was the prospect that was moved in that deal. Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks were the big leaguers moved. Harrison, you've talked about a lot on this program. Very low release on the fastball, one of the most unique releases and unique deliveries in Major League Baseball. Harrison is in AAA now.
I had to answer to a lot of angry people a couple years ago for having him where we had
only
him
at 92. Yeah, Kyle Harrison.
No, it was 91. It wasn't that harsh.
Sorry.
Yeah, but I remember I went back and looked at those. So I was searching Kyle Harrison tweets. We got hit hard for those. But also Jose Bayo erasure. Don't forget.
Yeah, I mean, what, 20-year-old at the complex that's spinning a good sweeper?
Yeah, actually crazy weird data. We'll talk about that a little bit at the end, but James Tibbs definitely the focus.
Tibbs is the focus. Tibbs started really cold to begin his pro career last year after winning ACC Player of the Year with Florida State. I think he was the ACC Player of the
Yeah.
Year. Tibbs went ahead of Cam Smith, which was crazy. But James Tibbs has always been a guy that really looked like a platoon bat that
Hmm.
can get into some pop. He did not get into pop at all with Wood at the end of last year. And this year, he's getting into pop. He was really good in high A before this trade.
And he says, F your platoon this year. I don't
Yeah.
know if he was like grinding shapes all off season or whatever. He had to have been. But left on left this year, he's a 1,000 OPS.
Hmm.
What? He was, I mean, it was bad left on left in college. So that's encouraging to see. But then you say, oh, well, if he has a 1,000 OPS left on left, what does it look like against righties? 231, 361, 462 slash lines. That's an 822 OPS against righties. Uh, Tibbs is an interesting player here because I think you can get decent defense in a corner. He's hitting the ball hard, and I think that's what you really wanted to see him continue to do with Wood is how hard is he going to be hitting the ball? How much power can we dream on here? Because I think the hit tool was always going to be at the highest level. It was never going to be better than average, and the approach I think was a big thing to monitor as well. And the approach has gotten to a point where he looks like he can be similar to that three true outcome type of player. You'd hope that the bat to ball is better, and it has been, but he's only striking out 17.5% of the time. I think there's enough of like the swing malleability here where he's spoiling some tough pitches. He has a B swing in his back pocket. That helps a lot. But a 90th percentile of 106, hitting the ball really hard, and a chase rate of 18%. Those are all things you love to see. He's doing it at high A, and I think with these college bats, that challenge is always double A. That's why I really always like to see, okay, well, how are you hitting double A? And I'm eager to see that. But you put Tibbs in an organization where you can. We've had a lot of stories about all the disarray in the Red Sox organization right now, and there's no doubt about that. But the one thing you can't take away from them, and I think even in some of the stories that were written, is like there's too much focus on hitting mechanics and these things, and not the fundamentals because of the defensive side of things, right? Um, I'm a believer in focusing on the hitting mechanics. To be honest, I think that's going to help you in a lot of ways. James Tibbs being in that situation there with the Red Sox, there's no doubting that they have helped players add bat speed as effectively as any organization in baseball. And James Tibbs is already at plus EVs or well above average. If they help him there or they help him get the ball in the air a little bit more because it's a 51% ground ball rate, it's a guy that I think they had circled. They probably loved out of the draft. They probably had circled here and said, this is another guy that we can elevate. And I think that they could potentially elevate him. And even a half notch up, he's a top 100 prospect. Like he's a top 120 prospect probably right now in baseball. If he gets a little bit more unlocked offensively, this is no doubt a guy that could be a really solid corner bat. And I know they have a trillion of them right now, but you're just trying to recoup as much value as possible. Poor guy might get traded again, honestly. You never
Yeah.
know. But this is a good get. I think in a prospect that if he had hit the ground running in double A, guys like that are a lot more difficult to acquire.
It's funny watching the Red Sox trade Braden Montgomery in that Garrett Crochet deal and then immediately acquire James Tibbs, who is the closest thing to Braden Montgomery. Now,
Yeah.
granted, Montgomery is a switch hitter, but those guys had near identical offensive templates that they fit there, and the Red Sox loved that template. They had Montgomery for a whopping 4 months, and then they moved him for Crochet, and they get Braden Montgomery back in the aggregate, which is cool.
And I think they probably figured that they had no chance of being able to get a Braden Montgomery, right? Like I wonder if Montgomery wasn't on the board there, are they taking a James Tibbs? Because I know we joked that Cam Smith was probably the pick. Maybe they take a Cam Smith too, but the way that the draft worked out, right, was Braden Montgomery, James Tibbs, Cam Smith. Maybe they go with one of the two FSU kids, but I think those are the two clear picks to be made there. One of the two FSU kids, if Braden Montgomery wasn't available, I would have definitely leaned towards Cam Smith. But I think those two guys, Carson Bench, I liked a lot too, but there was maybe some other aspects that contributed to that. I have a feeling that it's a guy that they would have happily drafted anyway. So I think the Red Sox are happy to get him in there. And I think it is interesting. I don't want to just do the classic, like when the Rays get a reliever. Forrest Whitley, he's going to be great now. I don't want to do that with hitters going to the Red Sox now. But with Tibbs
Yeah.
already having the template and already having some success, they're not repatterning his swing. I think he's in a situation now, though, where it could just kind of push him right over the edge and he could be that top 100 prospect.
Yeah. I'm totally with you, man, and it's exciting to see what they do. I would assume he goes to Portland. I haven't seen an official announcement yet for him. I just saw Kyle Harrison was going to Worcester.
Yeah. I don't think there's much need for him to continue to be in high A. I mean, you look at the last 30 games, he's a 979 OPS. The
Yeah,
last
like
20 games,
let's
it's 1,031.
get ready to learn
Let's
Sea
challenge him.
Dog, buddy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love that. Jose Bay, I'll give you a 10-second TLDR. I have no idea. He throws only cutters essentially. It's 93. It's a fastball that's 8 vert and 4 horizontal. I've never really seen that from a 5-4 release site. It's weird, but it kind of works. And he throws a lot of strikes. And they're really interested in the analytics side of pitch shapes and things like that. When you have an Andrew Bailey, when you have the drive lineification of that organization as well. There's probably something they see here, but they plucked a guy off the complex, which is interesting. It's weird. So I'm interested to see what they do with weird.
Welcome back, Kevin Cops. That's really
Yeah.
exciting stuff. Thomas White got the promotion to Double A Pensacola for the Miami Marlins in Beloit. I've got this written down in my book here. 9 starts with High A Beloit, had a 2.83 ERA in 35 innings. Opponents were hitting 176 against him. He had 53 punchouts in 35 innings of work. His last 2 starts were way too easy for him. Last two, 8 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, no walks, and 13 punchouts. So Thomas White gets the bump to Double A in a very pitcher-friendly environment in Pensacola and in the Southern League. This guy was too good for High A, it
Oh
seemed,
yeah.
over the last month or so.
Oh yeah. Well, what's interesting too is the shift in command, and I don't know if there was something he was dealing with in terms of the early part, or it might have just been freaking cold. I don't know, but this is a guy that was throwing strikes at a pretty decent clip last year. I mean, there was always a question of whether the command was going to be fringy or above average, but I don't think it was ever, hey, is he going to walk 3 every start? And that's what he did through the first handful of starts this year. First 6 outings, he had a 15% walk rate. Then you look at the last 3, and he's filling up the zone. It's
Yeah.
1 walk in 3 starts. If you go back to the last 4, it's 3 walks and 4 starts, a 67% strike rate, and the fastball's average 96. So, I mean, the stuff has always been outrageous. The breaking ball is nasty. The changeup is good. And now he's even mixing in a slider. But the fastball command had been a little bit spotty at points. Now he's filling up the zone more. I mean, this is a guy, he's 20 years old. He could fly up through the upper levels quickly. If he's throwing strikes like this, the stuff is not a question. It's three potential for 3+ pitches here. I was just kind of wondering why the command was a little bit
Yeah.
just all over the place, and it hasn't been of late. They have seemed to be managing his workload a little bit though too, which is interesting.
I think they tapered for a teensy bit, and he might have been dealing with a little something on his hand. But he's good now, and since he
Looks
kind of
like it.
put that in the rear view, he's been ridiculous.
It's been amazing to watch. This is one of my favorite pitching prospects to watch because the long arm action, it's really tough to pick it up out of the hand. Then you've got that 4-seamer with run and ride. You've got the breaking ball, which sharp off of that. And the changeup, I think, is one of the more underrated pitches that you're going to see of a guy in the top 100. I can't wait to see what it looks like in double because I think it's only going to get easier for him as he just gets more and more comfortable with his stuff and with establishing that fastball.
We saw what it looked like in Double A for Trey Yesavage, who got up with Toronto. Yesavage is on a rocket ship through the minor leagues right now. It's very, very Quinn Matthews from last year. Trey Yesavage, 7 starts with Low A Dunedin, 33 and a third innings, 55 punchouts, and 8 walks. He gets to Vancouver. He walks a lot of guys, 11 in 17 and a third, but he also punched out 33. And in 17 and a third innings, he allowed 5 hits, 2 of which were home runs. And then in his Double A debut in New Hampshire, he goes 4 innings of 1 hit, 1 run ball. He walked 4, but he K'd 4.
Yeah.
The only guy beating Trey Yesavage right now is Trey Yesavage.
Yep.
And assuming he sheds this command issue, control issue, because he didn't have it in Low A, why can't he pitch in the big leagues this year?
Literally, it's just the command, and I think it's going to continue to get there. You look at the overall strike rate; it's not a problem. It's 65%. I think it's more just execution, and I think a lot of hitters are going in there trying to be patient because the stuff is so good, and so just having the confidence that hey, I can go to that fastball and it's going to get enough whiff at the top of the zone when I need it to. This is a very, very, very unique release point that I'm very interested to see how it plays. He would have the highest release point in Major League Baseball, higher than Verlander, but he also gets a ton of vert at 95. So like we always talk about, one of my biggest pet peeves is people say, "Oh, it's 20 vert." Well, from what release height? Because 20 vert from Trey Yesavage's release height is not the same as 20 vert from 5.6 release height, which would be elite. But 20 vert from Trey Yesavage's release height is still pretty good. And I think that's the important thing. So that's where you're locating it and things like that. It does help because generally that high release point is going to make it easier to see the ball on plane and things like that. Why I think it's going to help him even further is that splitter is outrageous. Outrageous. And you think about the highest release point basically possible in Major League Baseball right now. And the best pitch off of that is one that drops vertically. You think about how much that makes it play up, where you've got to worry about a 7-something foot release with carry. And then off of that is a pitch that does the opposite from a high release point. It's like he's dropping it from the sky. And then guess what? His slider, it's not a horizontal slider. It's a gyro slider. So the one other thing is, okay, well, when hitters are thinking north-south, can they eliminate at a certain point and they're not going to respect east-west? I think he still works well enough east-west with that splitter and with the gyro to manipulate it a little bit more, to have a little bit more horizontal, that this guy's just weird. And I think hitters are going to the box saying, I haven't really seen anything like that. And I think that's an asset to him, obviously. He's fascinating. I could talk on and just kind of about what it all looks like because it's so different. And I think that gyro slider was one of the most underrated pitches in the draft. Everyone was talking about the splitter. That slider didn't get enough love.
Everybody was worried about the health too, because obviously that was the entire story about Yesavage. It's like, oh, he's hurt, he's hurt, he's hurt. Turns out he's not hurt. Like, that's the big thing. We saw him fall to Toronto because of medical concerns, and that was like the shocking thing because Toronto has had to deal with Brandon Barrera and a couple other guys. What, Marutis blew out too?
Yep.
Like, I
He's
mean,
back,
dude,
but yeah.
everybody's just dropping like flies. Tiedemann, obviously, they've ran into durability issues with him.
Andrew Rojas was hurt to start the year.
And look at the
Jake
big league level,
Bloss.
Manoah. Manoah
Yeah.
can't stay healthy right now. So, an organization that took a guy that had injury concerns in the draft. It was a head scratcher. But shit, man, they might have they might have known what they were doing.
Well, and not to make this episode any longer, but Cal Steven,
Yeah,
he's right there with him, by the way, the second round pick in this draft. And you look at his 5 starts since he went up to high A. I think they were kind of brought up together, but now you're seeing Yesavage getting pushed a little bit more aggressively. 5 starts in Vancouver for Steven, 25 innings, a 2.16 ERA, 27 Ks and 6 walks. They've got a little tandem of pitchers here. Oh, and by the way, Johnny King,
oh yeah,
I know he's at the complex, but he might be the best pitcher at the complex right now.
there you go.
He is disgusting. So they've got something going here all of a sudden. You have 6 appearances, 19 and thirds innings, a 1.4 ERA from Johnny King at the complex. I understand it's the complex, but he struck out 33 and walked 5 in that span.
Wow.
The Blue Jays may have cooked on some arms here.
How about them, man? Ross Atkins, trust.
Extend.
I'm thinking we hold College World Series takeaways, let you get a couple more elimination games under their belt,
Yeah,
and then we
yeah,
do
that
that at
sounds
the
good.
end of the
I
week.
just watched, even when I got back here, I just watched Rock Chalowski just picking it at shortstop. I didn't get to see him do that in person too much, so
Yeah,
that
so
was cool to see.
get a couple of midweek games under your belt, and how about we talk Omaha on Friday? Like we just make that the episode. So
Sounds good to me. We talk Omaha, and we can check in on some other promotions or things like that as well. I think we're going to do a heat sheet potentially in between that with Elijah Evans as well.
Cool.
So we'll try to fit that in as well. So we might have a 3-episode week this week, and we're looking, I think, shaping up for a lot more of those moving forward. So very
Perfect.
excited about that.
But I do have 3 quick things that we got to do before we say see ya. Didier Fuentes made his AAA debut for the Atlanta Braves. One more promotion. Fuentes, he was awesome in his AAA debut. At 19 years old, Didier Fuentes, 4 2/3 innings, 3 hits, only run was a solo homer. He K'd 6, did not walk anyone. I just want to give you some nuggets from Dave Lazat, who's the great announcer for the Gwinnett Stripers. The Stripers have added right-hander Didier Fuentes to the roster today. The Braves' number 10 prospect, according to Pipeline, at 19 years, 11 months, and 28 days. And he tweeted this on June 13th. Happy 20th birthday, Didier Fuentes, today on Tuesday, June 17th. He turns 20. But when he debuted in AAA, he became the third teenager ever to play for Gwinnett. He joined Ozzie Albies, who played AAA ball at 19 years old in 2016, and Ronald Acuna Jr., who played AAA ball at 19 years old in 2017. So the three teenagers to ever play AAA baseball for the Gwinnett Stripers: Didier Fuentes, Ronald Acuna, and Ozzie Albies. Fuentes, the youngest pitcher in Stripers history, surpassing Julio Teheran in 2011 at 20 years, 2 months, and 12 days.
Yeah, that's fun. I like that. I like it's crazy because he still has room for more. Like, this is a guy that's throwing a fastball 70% of the time. That fastball is 70 grade, so that helps, and he dominates the zone with it and fills up the zone with it. But this is a 19, now 20-year-old kid who is flying through the minor leagues while being dependent on a fastball. So that tells you how good the fastball is, but that also makes you think, okay, well, what happens when he finds a little bit more of a feel to spin it? In his last 5 starts, his curveball and slider, he's going for a strike 49% of the time. He's just dominating with the fastball, flipping the glove and going. So, I mean, it's a 5.1 release height with 16 vert and above average extension at 95. And it's a super flat approach angle. He clearly has something special rocking there. He could play in the bullpen if they want to do that, but he's turning lineups over, throwing the fastball 7 out of 10 times. If those secondaries come along a little bit further, and it might require an offseason ultimately to get there, this guy could be a monster.
Dude, total monster. And we'll see what happens. Obviously, the Braves love fast tracking their guys, but at 20 years old, I would assume big league debut for a 20-year-old pitcher in Fuentes early next year.
Interested in what the role is. He could be a phenomenal opener. And that could be a way to go about it, but I'm interested to see what they make that role.
That'd be pretty cool. 2 more things, 2 of the best pitching matchups that I've ever laid my eyes on, or best pitching performances I've ever laid my eyes on. Gage Wood just threw the first no-hitter in Omaha in 65 years. Gage Wood for the Arkansas Razorbacks, 9 innings, no hits, no walks, 1 hit by pitch in the 7th inning. He K'd 19, including the final out of the game in a 3-0 win over Murray State in an elimination game. His last pitch of the game was at 97 miles an hour. He did it in 119 pitches, 83 for strikes. That was unbelievable to keep tabs on.
And don't get it twisted. That Murray State lineup, that's not a bad lineup. That is not a team that he just took advantage of. I mean, maybe at the back end of it, it can thin out a little bit compared to most teams in Omaha. That top of the, I watched them game 1, and also, I mean, doing the preparation going into the College World Series, those guys, they're disciplined 23-year-old hitters who had great years, and I mean, they gave some challenges to some really good arms on their way to Omaha. And even in game 1 at Omaha, the offense wasn't a huge problem. They scored 4 runs. They grinded out ABs. They did some impressive things. I mean, they put up 19 on Duke and Durham. This is an offense that was prolific throughout the season. Even if it's mid-major, it was mid-major prolific.
Yeah.
That was credit to Gage Wood. Those guys had just not, and I don't think anyone had really seen a fastball like that. I think the humidity worked in Wood's favor, where he was just ripping that ball.
Dude, Wood, and then I watched in their first game, Gabe Gackle. Are you kidding me?
That data was stupid. I was like looking at the TrackMan while I was there. Like, I mean, he was getting, and you sent me one graphic, I think the Creighton Analytics team I put out there.
Yeah, they keep putting them out.
Like 20 vert. He threw some fastballs that were getting like 22 vert from a 5.5 release. It was like, what in the world? And I think that the humidity is helping, where it's like just sticky and guys are just ripping them. They're finding their sticky out there a little bit, but naturally. But I mean, we were seeing some of these Gage Wood fastballs it's that short arm delivery from like a 5.5 release height that when you're getting 17, 18, 19 vert, it's such a flat approach angle. And at that velocity, he was just dominant. And then you got the curveball working off of that. That was really fun to watch. And I also loved his interview afterwards. He trained with one of the guys at Murray State. They went to high school together. They were a couple years apart, and just like one of the first things he was saying was how good of a player he is, and they worked together, and he's excited to keep working with them in the offseason. He went and shook his hand afterwards. It was an incredible interview. And it's a guy that, I mean, you look at the draft stock. I think he was expected to kind of be a middle round guy. I don't like to look at one pitching performance and say, oh, push him up. But I could look at that pitching performance. I can look at I assume the makeup and I don't want to take too much from one interview either, but just the mentality. I loved everything he said. He crushes some pre-draft interviews. That's a guy that you could probably take a little bit earlier, save some money, and feel great about him at least landing in a bullpen.
Tyler Jennings had him, I think, top 60 on
Wow,
justbaseball.com
I
in
think
his
that's
top
higher than
300
everybody
draft
else.
prospects.
Yeah, I think that's higher than most other out there. And I mean, Tyler's on it. That doesn't surprise me.
Time to victory lap, Tyler. The last guy that I want to mention, and I'm going to send you on a little bit of a data dive right now, Tatsuya Imai in Nippon Professional Baseball. This dude, Yaku Cosmopolitan, who does a great job covering the NPB on Twitter, they tweeted out his line, and I was dumbfounded. Tatsuya Imai for the Cebu Lions last night. Complete game shutout, 2 hits, no walks, 17 punchouts. He got 27 whiffs. His final pitch of the game was at 98 miles an hour. What does this guy what does his data look like? Because he's 27 years old. He's ripping 98 on the 27th pitch, 123rd pitch that he threw. He could very well come stateside.
This is a really interesting release. So it's almost like he looks like a shortstop almost, where it's kind of like three quarters. It looks like he's almost just playing catch, but the best way I can describe it looks like he just fielded a ground ball, took a shuffle, and went to throw it across the diamond, like the nonchalant, efforts you'll see sometimes from just really polished shortstops. And I think from that release point, it's horizontal, and it just makes for a really uncomfortable at bat. So he's got the slider that it's kind of this cutterish slider that hitters are just really struggling with. And then from that release point, he's got more of a two-seamer, which makes sense. That's going to play well from that horizontal kind of three-quarter release point. But then he's got a four-seamer, which is going to play really well from that release point. It registers as a four-seamer, but it's more of like a run and ride pitch, and I'm interested to see how that would look with a Major League Baseball. But if he's able to replicate anything close to that run and ride, like he's getting like 16 and 16 from that release point, that's going to dominate at the top. And then he has a heavier one off of that. And then he has a slider going the opposite way off of that, which has been dominant this year. And then it's funny. It's rare watching an international pitcher, especially a Japanese or NPB or KBO pitcher whose slider is way ahead of his splitter. So I'm interested to see if that's something that'll continue to develop. But it seems like just a diabolical fastball slider combination here that it could play really well stateside. 5'11" as well. It's fun. Workload is nuts, by the way.
What?
The workload is nuts. His lowest pitch total this year is 105.
Hell yeah. I love a Chad innings eater that throws 98. That's awesome.
Do you know when he can be posted?
He's 27 years old. I would assume he could be posted this year or next.
Wow. Yeah, we should do an NPB check-in as well in the next couple weeks. That'd be fun.
That would be fun. By the way, 17 punch-outs in a game broke the Cebu Lions all-time single-game record. The guy that held it previously, 2004, Daisuke Matsuzaka struck out 16.
Decent company.
Decent company. So
yeah,
that's what we got.
That's awesome. Well, we will have a heat sheet in the next day or two, and then we will do a College World Series check-in, and that's just some overall draft check-in, I would say. And we'll be doing more of those with Tyler Jennings as it gets closer, but I feel pretty good about my ability to walk us through a draft check-in on Friday with everything I've been doing on that side of things, and excited to work with Tyler actually on the next updated rankings. You got the combine going on as well, so maybe some stuff that we can pull out of that. And we've got Connor Dorney, one of our writers at Just Baseball, out at the combine doing interviews too. We've got Jared Perkins at the College World Series. We got boots on the ground everywhere, baby, and I'm really proud of that. So keep up with that work at justbaseball.com and on the clock, those social media accounts on X, on Instagram, TikTok, you name it. And their podcast, of course, is phenomenal. They got some draft interviews loaded up over the next month as well. As always, thank you for listening. Oh, you got something?
Posted after this year, Imai.
Ooh,
he could be posted after this year.
You're sending me down a rabbit hole later this evening, buddy. Like I gotta watch some more of these starts now because I like the way he throws. It's easy. It's easy.
There you go.
We will talk to you probably tomorrow. If not, the day after that.